Canada, known for hockey, kindness, and maple syrup. But in 2011, something happened that rocked this sweet nation to its core. At the heart of the heist was Quebec, which produces about 70% of the world's maple syrup supply. To stabilize prices, the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, basically a syrup cartel, created a strategic reserve, massive warehouses filled with barrels of syrup worth millions. In 2011, thieves saw an opportunity. Over the course of a year, they quietly rented space in one of these warehouses. The perfect inside job. They siphoned the syrup, not once but slowly, methodically, over months. They'd drain barrels, sometimes refill them with water, and then sell the stolen syrup on the black market. And moving syrup isn't easy. One full barrel weighs over 600 pounds, about the same as a vending machine. Every load out the door was a serious operation. Once stolen, the syrup was trafficked through shady buyers and resold, sometimes even entering legitimate markets as authentic Quebec syrup. The Federation didn't notice for months. It wasn't until routine inspections in 2012 that inspectors found barrels, empty or filled with water, and realized something was very, very wrong. A major police investigation nicknamed Operation Sticky kicked off. After months of detective work, they arrested over 30 people connected to the theft. The mastermind, Richard Vallières, was convicted of theft, fraud, and trafficking. He was sentenced to prison and ordered to repay millions. If he didn't pay up, he'd face even more prison time. Today, Quebec's syrup reserves are guarded like Fort Knox. Extra security, fingerprint scanners, and tighter regulations mean it'll be a lot harder for syrup bandits to strike again. The Great Maple Syrup Heist wasn't just about money, it was about rebellion, frustration with a powerful system, and a black market you probably didn't even know existed. Proof that even in Canada, crime can be just as sticky, and just as sweet. London, 2015. A group of seasoned criminals, some old enough to collect pensions, pulled off one of the most daring and bizarre burglaries in British history. This is the story of the Hatton Garden Heist, the biggest burglary ever in the UK, committed by a gang of, well, Grandad gangsters. Hatton Garden is London's jewelry district, home to millions in gold, diamonds, and precious stones, and sitting right in the middle was the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company, a heavily fortified vault where the rich and powerful stored their treasures. But during the Easter weekend in 2015, while most people were eating chocolate eggs, a gang of elderly criminals were busy planning something far sweeter, the perfect heist. The crew wasn't made up of young, tech-savvy crooks. These were old-school thieves. The average age was nearly 70 years old. Led by Brian Reeder, nicknamed the Master, the team also included John Kenny Collins, Terry Perkins, Daniel Jones, and others, all with long rap sheets stretching back decades. Armed with industrial drills, they bypassed security systems, disabled alarms, and drilled through 2 meters of solid concrete to break into the vault. It was like something straight out of Ocean's 11. Except these guys had bad knees, hearing aids, and heart conditions. After 2 nights of hard physical labor, they broke through and looted around 73 safety deposit boxes, walking away with an estimated 14 million pounds in cash, jewelry, and precious metals. Some reports suggest the real haul might have been even bigger, but a lot of it was never recovered. So how did they get caught? Well, despite their decades of criminal experience, the Grandad gangsters made a few rookie mistakes. For starters, they couldn't stop bragging. Police planted secret listening devices in one of their cars and caught them on tape openly chatting about the heist, who got what, how they split the loot, and even where they planned to spend it. It turned out that getting in was the hard part. Getting away with it, not so much. The men were arrested, tried, and sentenced. Brian Reeder, already in poor health, got 6 years in prison. Other members received similar or longer sentences depending on their role. But millions of pounds worth of loot is still missing to this day. And not all of it was ever accounted for. The Hatton Garden Heist wasn't just a robbery, it was a last hurrah. A final caper pulled off by men who refused to let age stop them from chasing one last score. In the end, they proved one thing: crime might not pay, but sometimes it sure makes a great story. When you think of a museum heist, you probably imagine masked thieves, high-tech gadgets, and a quick getaway under the cover of night. But in 2005 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, one group pulled off a museum robbery in broad daylight, while dressed as monks. This is the bizarre story of the fake monks robbery, a heist so strange it sounds like the plot of a comedy movie. It all went down at the Museum of Sacred Art of Sao Paulo, a small but historic place attached to a real, working monastery. Inside were some of Brazil's rarest religious artifacts: golden chalices, ornate crucifixes, and centuries-old statues, priceless pieces of colonial history. But on a quiet December day, a group of men in brown robes, sandals, and carrying rosary beads walked up to the front door. Security didn't think twice. After all, it was common for pilgrims to visit and pray. The guards welcomed the holy visitors inside, only to be quickly overpowered. The monks pulled out weapons, tied up the staff, and got straight to work. In no time, they cleaned out dozens of relics, gold and silver artifacts dating back to the 1600s and 1700s. And just like that, the fake monks slipped away with some of Brazil's most sacred treasures. Now here's where things get awkward. The gang quickly realized they had a problem. These weren't random valuables. They were national treasures. Too famous to sell openly. Too unique for the black market. Every collector, museum, and auction house had been immediately alerted. The stolen items were basically radioactive. In a panic, the thieves did what any rational criminal would do. They buried the loot in a backyard, literally. Sacred relics worth millions were shoved under some dirt, like unwanted leftovers. Months later, after a lengthy investigation, police tracked down several members of the gang. The evidence? Witnesses remembered that their monk robes looked suspiciously new and clean, not worn and dusty like real monks' robes would be. That tiny detail, shiny fake robes, helped crack the case wide open. Several arrests were made and much of the stolen treasure was recovered, still wrapped in cloth, hidden underground. Today, the Museum of Sacred Art has beefed up its security. And somewhere in Sao Paulo, there's probably still an old backyard with a few lingering secrets buried beneath the soil. The fake monks robbery wasn't the biggest heist in history, but it might just be one of the weirdest. Proof that sometimes the strangest crimes happen not with force or finesse, but with a costume, a plan, and a whole lot of nerve. The world is full of hidden crimes, buried stories, and mysteries that slip through the cracks. Today we barely scratched the surface. And trust me, there's a lot more where that came from. If you want more forgotten heists, unsolved mysteries, and crime stranger than fiction, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started. Got a crime so obscure even I might not know it? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, the truth is almost always stranger than the story.